Welcome back to 755 is Real. I'm David O'Brien, Braves writer at The Athletic. I'm with my co-host, former Braves reliever, Eric O'Flaherty. What's going on, Eric?
What's up, Dave?
Not much, man. Braves coming off a doubleheader sweep at Detroit, which they really needed after losing the first game up there. You obviously want to – it put them in that weird position because doubleheader sweeps are obviously – difficult, but they needed to do that to avoid losing the series. So so that was they responded pretty impressively, especially considering they got two rough starts. They didn't get a good start out of either Strider or Dylan Dodd, who's on, at least Dylan Dodd had an excuse. He was called Tuesday night and flown up there Wednesday morning to start the second game of the doubleheader. But the bullpen was phenomenal and the offense was I mean, they were hitting bombs all day. Acuna, we'll talk about him, but homered in both games. Harris had a huge first game, 4 for 4, 4 RBIs with a homer. So they really responded well, I thought, in that. And it's not a hitter's park either. That's a big, spacious park. But the Braves broke out the bats big time on that doubleheader sweep. And the bullpen, wow, that was something.
You can't bring your B game against this offense. I mean, if you're off, there's not going to be a break, and there's always somebody in this offense that's been slumping that's ready to get hot. Like Michael Harris. You give him he's been hitting the ball hard for a while, but you give him a chance, and all of a sudden it's an 8-run game. And that's how this team's been for years. But this year feels even more like it. Like every time there's been a guy that's just a little, leaving some stuff up in the zone, you just get freaking punished by this offense.
They've got like 6 guys going well right now. On any given game, 6, 7 guys, it seems like.
Yeah.
And at least 3 or 4 really are the crucial guys going. Whereas at parts of the season, they had guys like Rosario struggling. They weren't getting anything out of center field when Harris was hurt, then when he was struggling. But right now, they're getting about as much as you can get out of an offense. I mean, nobody's ever going to have all 9 spots going, but they got about 7 going at once. It's a juggernaut, man. Explodes for offense in a hurry.
It seems like, it's Riley or Olsen can be struggling, but they're still a threat. So it's still work to get through them. And a lot of times when those guys are struggling, people are locking in and pitching them really tough. But you get to the bottom half and there's some guys hot down there. Acuna is lingering. It's every time I see it, I'm like, if they can just turn this thing over to Acuna, and then it starts right back over.
And even when Olsen and Austin Riley are struggling, they still can pop one in the first inning. I mean, the first inning homers are that's been a dynamic this year that hasn't been there in the past. Where Acuna was always a dangerous leadoff hitter, but they didn't have one of those guys hitting so many home runs in so many games. So they're just jumping out on teams early so many times this year, something that was not a big component in the Braves offense in the past, despite Acuna being a terrific leadoff hitter in the past. Now the first inning, they're putting up runs, and quite often it's crooked numbers in the first inning.
Yeah, and it's not a wall scraper. I mean, there's something about when you give up a ball 460 that's like
demoralizing.
Yeah, I gotta we're gonna have to lock in.
So they Braves have won 9 out of 11 games. They moved to a league best 42-26. They opened a 4.5 game lead in the East over the Marlins. The Marlins are hanging in there, man. They look for real. And the Phillies are playing a lot better too. And they got the Phillies next week after this Colorado series that starts tonight. 4-game series starting tonight in Atlanta. Then you go up to Philly. So that's going to be interesting there. It's the largest division lead in the NL, second in the majors to Tampa Bay's 5-game lead, and Tampa Bay's been playing great all year. So, for all those that were so concerned about the Braves and things falling apart, the fact that they've maintained this pace without Max Fried, without Kyle Wright, with key injuries up and down the lineup at various times and in the bullpen at various times is pretty impressive. It's a really impressive start.
It's all about the unit. It's all about the vibe. And we talk about this every episode, I know, but they've had a lot of challenges thrown at them and they just keep plugging away. And also, the lineup depth, the bullpen's been pretty solid. There's been a couple tough spots, but it's been a pretty consistent team regardless of what you've thrown at them. And every time somebody goes down or something happens, it's not that how are they going to recover? How are they going to get through this? It's kind of just like I feel like, oh, they'll do it. They'll be fine. Like when Ozuna got hit.
Yeah.
It's like, shit, that could be a blow to the offense, but okay, now you got 6 guys hot instead of 7. It's nothing's really too scary until it starts being, 3 or 4 guys that are crucial to get hurt.
And we should note that right away. It looks like they dodged a couple of bullets there because Ozuna looked like it could have been a broken hand briefly when he was hit.
The way he was holding that. Yeah.
He came out of the game. You thought hamate bone. This could be out for a while. Turns out it was not. It was really just soreness because he was back in the lineup for game 2 of the doubleheader. Very good sign, obviously. And then yesterday, Chavez goes down. And Jesse, we've talked about how he's pitched at an all-star level, really. I mean, 1.55 ERA this year. He's been phenomenal. He goes down yesterday, gets hit, gets drilled by a Miguel Cabrera 99-mile-an-hour one-hopper. And it reminded me so much of Charlie getting hit by the one-hopper in the World Series when Charlie ended up with a broken leg. And the way they carried the Chavez off the field, that the trainers had to carry him off the field. He couldn't put any weight on it, and it was like he didn't want to leave on a cart, but it was the same thing being carried off, So I thought, it looks like he's done. Turns out the X-rays were clean. They did MRIs and that nothing showed. The CT scan, nothing showed up on it at all. I'm told he's sore this morning, but they think they're going to be out. They think they're going to be avoid an IL, but we'll see. But even if it was an IL, it'd be the minimum. In other words, in other words, it's not a 15 days. It's not a long-term thing, and he might even avoid it altogether if they think it'll only take a few days.
You ever seen him in a pair of shorts?
Oh yeah.
There's some skinny legs.
Yeah. That's what he said. He got lucky because it hit. He said the only part of my calf that's actually it got any flesh there. The ball hit on the top of his calf where he had a little bit of muscle, instead of directly on the bone, because he wears his pants so baggy you couldn't really tell where it hit. Because
he wears one of the best unis in the game.
It looked like it might have hit the knee at first, which could have done some serious damage. Then it looked if you watch the replay, it looked like it hit directly on the bone, on the shin, or on the below the knee, but it didn't. It hit some of the calf, and that made a difference, I think. But I'm sure it's probably quite black and blue today, and purple.
Yeah, that's when I think we talked yesterday. I was thinking DL just because it's gonna, even though it's not broken, it's gonna hurt to put weight on it, and you just had a doubleheader. I thought they'd have to do the 10 and just, the minimum, like you said, let him recover, because it's going to be 3 or 4 or 5 days before it feels good to put weight on it. And when it's your legs, that's going to affect how you place weight and your mechanics and your balance and everything. But I mean, there's like 10 pounds of meat on his entire body.
Yeah.
And it found half a pound of it on his calf.
Who knows, man? If he's out for a few days, it might actually help. I mean, he could use, because it's almost impossible for Snit not to use him for 3 or 4 days. So if he's out 3 or 4 days, it could be a little bit of a rest, even though he hasn't complained of any arm fatigue. They're using him a lot
as far as that goes.
Yeah,
I think he could pitch in 90 games a year.
Rubber arm at 39 is really rare, man.
Yeah. I was telling Cam how, I throw once or twice a week now just for fun. And if I let a few eat, I need 3 or 4 days before it feels good again. And there's other guys that they just age different, I mean, to be doing what he's doing at 39 or what Charlie's doing, it's crazy.
Speaking of what somebody's doing, being crazy, Ronald Acuna, that's my segue. Ooh. Nobody has ever even had a 35-60 season, and he's on pace to blow through that, man. This guy, what he continues to do amazes me. And it's not just that he's compiling the numbers, it's how he's doing it. The home runs and the hard ball rate. He's hitting more long balls than anybody in the majors, and he's hitting more hard hit balls than anybody in the majors.
Do you have the stat for that?
Yeah, he's got – Sarah Langs had some great stats yesterday. She does such a good job with this stuff. He's got 11 460-foot plus home runs in his career, second most by any player in the StatCast era, behind Stanton, Giancarlo Stanton, who outweighs
5-year lead on him.
And he's got about 60 pounds on him.
Yeah, at least.
At least. He's got the most 450-plus foot home runs before July in a season in the StatCast era. All right, second most. Stanton had 8 before July in 2023 or 2015. Acuna's got 6.
I'd like to point out that 2015 was one of the juice ball years too.
Stanton finished with 10. Let's see. Yeah, 10. And he's already got 6. Acuna does. And we're not through June. Here's another one. The Braves, primarily him, but also Austin Riley, also some other guys, they've hit 13 450-foot plus home runs this year. No other team has hit more than 6. The Rockies have the most, and we obviously know what their altitude does for them. They have the most in the StatCast era in a single season, 2015. Again, juice ball era and altitude. They hit 19.
He's going to do that.
most by a non-Colorado team, 15 by the Marlins and Yankees in 2017. The Braves already have 13. We're not halfway through the season. Barely over a third of the way in the season.
I saw another stat of Acuna that he had, whatever it was, say like 112, 113, 114. He had more of those balls hit that hard than half the leagues in the team.
It's
half the teams in the league.
It's actually more than like 25 of the 30 teams.
Yes.
He has more hard hit balls over 110 miles an hour. 110 or 115. I think it's 110. Than like 25 of the 30 teams. It's crazy. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's what it was. I found it. He has a leading 36th ball hit with an exit velocity over 110. It's more than 23 teams by himself.
Oh, that is insane. Send me that stat, man.
I will. Even that first one he hit in the doubleheader, he's the only guy I know that cannot get all of it.
Yeah.
He was a little out front. He's the only guy I've watched that cannot get it all and go dead center at Tiger Stadium or at Comerica.
He homered in each of those games. And that first one, the second one was ridiculous. It was at the top of the batter's eye up there in the ivy or the fake ivy. I don't know if it's real. I think it's real there. And nobody hits him up there. And that was another one of those conservative estimates. That thing was 470.
I don't understand how the wall's 412 or 420 or something, and the ball's 60 feet high. And it hits probably 10, 15 feet behind the fence because that goes back a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
And you're telling me it only goes 40, 50 feet over the fence as a whole? I mean, you could underhand a ball 50 feet.
That second estimate was ridiculously low.
I throw my keys 50 feet when my wife needs them. It's farther than that.
But the first one I thought was so cool because his hero, his boyhood idol from obviously Miguel Cabrera from Venezuela, the hero in Venezuela. And Acuna might be the most prominent hitter since Miguel Cabrera from Venezuela. He's kind of taken the torch. And that game was almost like a passing of the torch, if you want to look at it that way.
Yeah.
Miguel Cabrera, who's having a bad year. I mean, he's old. He's way, way, way done, obviously. But he's riding out the contract. But he had a big game, man. He had a big day. Miguel
Cabrera.
He can still turn on the ball, but he hits a long homer. And then Acuna answers him like an inning later and hits one himself. It was very cool. And the two of them talked before the game. It was just really cool. Acuna is just so proud and thrilled to be able to do that, to see Miguel do it, and then to answer with one of his own, and then hit another one in the second game, in front of his hero, his boyhood idol. That had to be just so cool for him to do that.
I think that no matter how big you get, there's certain people that are always larger than life to you.
Yeah.
And for him, I'm sure that was Griffey for me. And I got to face him in 2007. It's the coolest moment in my career, just to see that guy standing in the box, regardless. I mean, he was kind of toward the end, but he was making his way back his first time playing at Safeco as a visiting player because he'd been in the National League. And he was getting a standing ovation every at bat. Even when we picked over when he was in the box, the whole crowd booed. So it was a pretty cool moment for me. But even when I met Griffey, I met him in San Francisco. I couldn't speak. It was like I was just so starstruck by him that I couldn't. I said hi, shook his hand, just looked at him, and then I just ran away. There's certain people like that in your career. So I bet that's kind of who Cabrera is to him.
Yeah, I mean, he's not the type to get too awestruck, but you could tell. I mean, that's the exception. Those are those kind of the guys that and he's been fortunate in his career already to have been in home run derbies and have been in clubhouse, the locker room with these guys at all-star games. But to see Miguel, just the two of them talking on the field before the game and all that, it had to be pretty cool for him. Yeah. You look at looking at his baseball reference page right now, what Acuna's doing. I mean, this is kind of one of those seasons you see in black type on his name, like you see on the Mike Trouts, on the Hank Aaron's, on people like that kind of black type in a season. You're lucky if you see maybe two black types on a guy's name in a season, which is leading the league or leading the majors. Right now, he's leading the majors in runs with 59. He's leading the league in hits with the National League with 92. Leading the National League in stolen bases with 29, which is one or two off the major league lead. I didn't look today. And he's leading the league in total bases with 160. In most normal years, he'd be leading the league in batting average, but Arraez is, threatening 400. But
third.
he's hitting 333, man, over a third of the way into the season. And has a 405 OBP, which is really encouraging to see him getting the walks now too. He's walking at the highest rate. Well, it's his highest rate since that incredible 2019 season. But and the strikeouts are down. That's the thing he's having by far his best year in terms of walks to strikeouts. He's got 32 walks with only 40 strikeouts, man, which is phenomenal for a guy with that much power in today's game. That's phenomenal.
Well, I think it goes back to what I was saying about a guy that cannot quite get it all and still go to dead center in Detroit.
What you did twice yesterday.
No, what that does, it's kind of the opposite effect of when a guy goes to a real pitcher's park and you see them, all of a sudden it affects their entire game at the plate because now they're swinging harder. Like Beltre when he went to the Mariners. Yeah. Once he got out of there, you saw he took right back off and was the player that they thought he was when they signed him. Yeah. But as soon as you hit like 3 or 4 balls into a gap, a backspin, and a good angle on them, and you think they're gone, you can't help but start swinging a little bit harder and a little bit harder. And I think that's where he was last year. But this year, he's firing on all cylinders. He can miss balls and hit home runs. So he doesn't have to expand the zone. He doesn't have to start a swing early. Yeah. If it's there, he's just got to barrel it. Like that, I've never seen somebody casually hit a ball 460 like he did yesterday. That wasn't he's not even off balance. Yeah, it looks like a BP swing.
Yeah, those two swings yesterday, those 2 home runs were so impressive. But yeah, that 405 OBP would be his highest since 2020. And that was the shortened year, obviously. That was only 46 games. So that didn't really count. He had 406 that year. And he only had 250 that year. So he's hitting 333 with a 405, 580 slugging, which would be his highest since 2021 when he slugged 596, and a 985 OPS. In other words, he is right back where he was in 2021 when he was playing at the MVP level before his knee injury. That is what he's doing right now. The stats are so similar, except he's hitting 50 points higher.
It's that like he's got a metal bat.
That year, he had 24 homers in 82 games before he blew out his knee the weekend before the All-Star break. Right now, I mean, he's got 12 more stolen bases than he had that year in 84 games. 985 OPS to 990, 160 total bases already. Had 177 that year in 84 games. He's played 14 fewer games, and the OPS plus we're at 161 right now. He was at 158 that year, so he's having a better year. We wondered if he could get back to that level when it would be. He's back. He's back, and he's playing the best baseball of his life. It's pretty phenomenal.
What is he? 24.
25.
So, I mean, this is kind of the age where you start figuring the game out. Yeah. And what we think we talked about it before is like he didn't even know what he was doing when he first got called up. Like he's learning the game when he's 20, 21, 22. You're learning all these things, how they're going to pitch you, what situations you're probably not getting anything to hit. I think now you're getting to see like this guy's learning the game, and now he's becoming a smart player, but he still has the tools he had when he was 20.
Really, and if you think about it, he really missed more than a year because he missed the whole half season. And then
Yeah.
last year he was playing at a very diminished capacity and always worried about his knees. So he wasn't really learning the
Yeah.
game as much as he is playing while he's playing at full capacity. So, I mean, he's in that regard, he's a relatively inexperienced 25. I mean, he did break in at an early age, but still, I mean, this is to see him pick up where he was in 2021 is really, really impressive. And it's just when you think you can't be more impressed by Acuna, how much ability he's got, I've been more impressed this year by what he's done this year than ever. What he's doing right now, and he's playing every day, every inning. That's even more on top of everything else. He's not even like needing a day off or nagging this or that or coming out of games early. He's playing every inning.
Yeah. Well, and it might have made him a better player having to play at 80% last year, because that's when you got to start thinking and maybe sitting on pitches and doing those things that when his bat speed's at just ridiculous levels like it is now, he may not have to do that, but he might have learned last year. He might have had to cheat to pitches and learn some of those tricks that you don't get a chance to learn when you're just a freak of nature. So it might have been a good thing for him overall.
And his hips weren't exploding last year because that knee, he didn't trust his knee. So, yeah, it's something. And yesterday plays both games, every inning of both games of a doubleheader, and that was a regular doubleheader. That wasn't even a split doubleheader.
No time for hot dogs in between.
No, half hour, 40 minutes between. That's it. And keep going.
Yeah.
Homer in each end of it. He did that. That's the kind of stuff he was doing before he got hurt too. Homer in each end of a doubleheader. I mean, you hope everybody appreciates what you're seeing, because it's easy to get jaded watching a guy like that, and just gets kind of spoiled and take it as, oh, that's him. That's how good he is. I think everybody just needs to take a step back and go, there's a real good chance you'll never see another player like this as long as you're alive.
Yeah.
It's just like watching Willie Mays and Hank Aaron when they're young. That's what this is like.
Yeah, and that's how people talk about them. I mean, you can look at their numbers, or you can actually be there to witness it and see the things they're doing. It's more impressive when you actually see it than just looking at numbers. And that's how I feel. I feel like he's better than his numbers. Just watching him, the stuff he does, seeing him, that ball he hit, he was a little out front and still went dead center. Those are the things that you see that doesn't show up in the books or anything, but he does stuff that just makes you just scratch your head on how it's possible. And he does it weekly, if not daily.
Yeah. I mean, you don't feel like he's maxed out yet. I mean, he's still doing all this, and you still think, but he still does something every once in a while. He'll do something that you're not seeing him do yet. And you're like, he could start doing that on a more regular basis. Who knows? Who knows what the ceiling is for this guy? It might be, he might have a stretch here between 25 and 30, because he's just entering his peak. I mean, this is entering your peak years. He might have a stretch here where he averages 35 homers, and, the stolen bases will start dipping because he'll stop running as much as he gets a little older. But he's going to have a 3 or 4 year stretch here where he might average 35 homers and 50 to 60 stolen bases.
I'd be shocked if he doesn't go 40-40. Yeah, I mean, especially if he makes it a focal point.
I think he could do that this year still easily.
Yeah, he could get hot and have a 2 week span of 12 homers.
The home runs. We saw it yesterday. He hits 2 in one day, and makes it look easy. The fact that he has so many more long home runs than anybody else tells you that he could hit more home runs. I mean, because he is not hitting any fence scrapers. Throw in 10 fence scrapers, and my goodness.
Yeah.
So it's going to be fun to see the rest of this season, man.
Yeah, imagine him at Yankee Stadium.
Oh, jeez.
Those balls he was flicking out to right field at the home run derby. He could be 0-2 out front foot, and just slap it to right for a homer. I
mean, while part of me, selfishly, you want to see him do the home run derby in Seattle, but another part to me says, let's just rein it back in for a few days, man. Play in the game, take some time off, because he's not sitting out any games. It might be a good, rather than him, because he's so competitive that if that home run derby, he's going to go for it, man.
I don't know that there's anything that can mess this guy up.
I don't know, man. I just don't know what's to be gained by it.
Well, I think people would have. The thing he can gain is it's more personal, but people can see that he has more power than anybody, because he might leave Safeco Field if he does it. He might go out of the stadium to left.
He does this stuff in games. He does a home run derby in games, man.
The coolest thing, I think still to this day, the coolest thing I've ever seen him do was that first home run derby. Just taking BP swings and going out to right center in Cleveland. Nobody goes opposite field in the home run derby, and he was just doing it like a round of BP, just flicking them out.
Jeff Schultz, our columnist, talked to Alex Anthopoulos this morning. Got some bad news in a way. We said Chavez might have to go on IL for 15 days. It's nothing serious, but he woke up real sore today, and he is going to go on the IL. So you'd hope they'd be able to avoid that, but he is going to go on the IL. So there you go. Jeff just reported this. That'll be a loss for a few days because he's really several appearances rather during that stretch because he's been just a rock for these guys. Him and Collin McHugh, and McHugh won't be able to pitch for a few days after that incredible 3 innings he pitched yesterday. But anyway, so there you go. Jesse Chavez is going to the IL after getting hit in the shin. Let's see. Yeah, that's all.
Isn't that baseball? Having the year of your career at 39 and something like that's going to be what derails you, and hopefully he comes back and he's the same. But certain guys, man, stuff like this comes up right when you're finally shining.
And I really thought he had, if he kept it going, a chance to make the All-Star team.
Well, he still should. It's only a couple weeks.
Even though they don't take – it is. If he gets back in 15 days, he still has a chance because he's already got 31 appearances.
Yeah.
1.55 ERA, really low whip. They take guys that now. They didn't used to take any. It used to be all starting pitchers and a couple of closers. But then they started taking an occasional setup guy because the roles changed so much.
And you had to be a setup guy that was throwing 98, striking everybody out, and making a name for yourself. You wasn't throwing 91 and just having big balls out there.
But there's a movement afoot, and the more it gets out there and people start going, you know what, he is, and people start mentioning it nationally and all that. So still a chance. We'll see. First, you just want to get him back in 15 days, though. But what he was saying, that shouldn't be a problem. As far as I know, CT scan or nothing has shown anything. All the tests were negative, but he's just really sore, and they know they won't be able to use him for a few days. So, Michael Harris.
Hey, before we get to Harris, can I just pipe in real quick? I know I'm breaking up the momentum. Apologies, but real quick, shout out to the folks over at Omaha Steaks, guys. Father's Day is this Sunday, and you can be the winner of Father's Day by going to omahasteaks.com, entering the code REAL into the search bar. And when you do, you'll be able to order the Dad's Favorite gift package for just $99.99. Plus, you'll get 8 free Omaha Steak Burgers. Guys, this is an unprecedented deal. You get over 60% savings on the Dad's Favorite grill pack. You'll get 4 bacon wrap fillets, 4 premium air-chilled boneless chicken breasts, 4 boneless pork chops, 4 gourmet jumbo franks, 4 made from scratch caramel apple tartlets, an Omaha Steak seasoning pack, and then 8 free Omaha Steak burgers. All that just for $99.99. And shout out to Robert G in the chat saying Omaha Steaks burgers tonight on the grill. And shout out to us. Be like Robert. Get on the Omaha Steaks deal. Once again, if you go to omahasteaks.com and type in REAL to the search bar, you can order the Dad's Favorite gift package for Father's Day today. If you go to omahasteaks.com, enter the keyword REAL, REAL. You'll get that deal for $99.99. Do it today, folks. Father's Day is this Sunday. And also, shout out over to the folks over at LinkedIn. Are you struggling to close deals? Cold outreach is wasting the time of both the buyer and seller at every stage, especially when sellers are using shallow and outdated data. Your organization can overcome these challenges with technology that translates comprehensive, high-quality buyer data into real-time insights. We call this Deep Sales, and we built the first deep sales platform with the next generation of LinkedIn Sales Navigator. Right now, you can try LinkedIn Sales Navigator and get a 60-day free trial at linkedin.com/real23. That's REAL, the numbers 23. That's linkedin.com/23 for a 60-day free trial. Let LinkedIn Sales Navigator help you sell like a superstar today. Just go to linkedin.com/real23 and get started.
I'm going to start telling people I'm into deep sales.
Deep Sales and Sales Navigator.
I had I baked 2 of the Omaha Steaks pork loin chops last night. Baked them in the oven. I didn't want to go out and get the grill going and all that. Put them in the oven, baked them. They were delicious.
Yeah, with that Father's Day pack, you get some of those, and I think you get, jumbo franks, air chilled boneless chicken breasts, bacon wrap fillets. I mean, there's so much with that package. I don't know how. I mean,
What
you
it
have-
what,
you
what
have
in
to
the
sell-
hell is an air chilled chicken cut? What?
It's a boneless chicken breast, air chilled. I'm not entirely sure what air chilled is.
Air
but
chilled. That's not a term I've ever heard associated with food.
I guess it's a good chicken breast though. If it's fancy and air chilled, I don't know.
Yeah.
Air chill. Is that like sitting them outside in the winter? Is that air chilled? All right. Michael Harris, 4-hit game in game 1 of the doubleheader yesterday. To think that just over a week ago, we had some people suggesting he be sent to AAA. Good thing send him to AAA because he's helped the Braves win a lot of games since then. His real resurgence has coincided kind of with their 9 out of 11 here. He's been going for 8 games now, though. 4 for 4 with 4 RBIs in the first game of that doubleheader yesterday. Even after going hitless in a nightcap, that's a nice 4 for 8 day. Past 8 games, he's 14 for 31. He's at 452, 3 doubles, 3 homers, 8 RBIs in 8 games, only 3 strikeouts, and a 1308 OPS in that span. He's lifted his OPS from a putrid 490 to 652 in 8 games.
Yeah. And it doesn't even feel, I mean, it never feels like, because there's just so much bulk in your stats already at this point in the season, you get rewarded enough, but he's getting the shit out of the ball. I have a hard time getting over his opposite field homers.
Yeah.
Because it looks like he cuts it almost, like he doesn't completely square it up, and those things just carry his opposite field power.
Yeah, he got robbed of one.
Yeah.
Days ago.
Yeah. But they just keep going. It doesn't look like he hits them that good.
Right. Yeah. Line drives, man. It's got impressive opposite field power. Yeah. And I take back what I said about he might need to figure out his optimum weight and all that because he put on so much muscle in his lower body. And now he's obviously learned to use that because he's looked great during this stretch. I mean, he's running like himself again. The back clearly was an issue that was lingering because he looks like himself now. He's really showing great speed again now, making some great plays in the outfield. So you got him back. You did what you did without him really for, over a month and a half of the season. And I think there's something to what how Snit puts it is, especially with a young guy, you get hurt early. He gets hurt like second week of the season. So he misses basically a month, over 3 weeks. And it's right when the rest of the league is getting going.
Right.
So everybody else is getting everything going.
Locking in. So he's starting, when he comes off the IL, it's back like he's starting the season again, or like he's in the middle of spring training, because he hardly played at all. He hardly had any rehab games. And he's thrown right back into the mix where everybody's going full speed. Everybody's locked in at that point. Pitchers, everybody. So he's like desperately trying to catch up. And that was the worst, coincided with the worst skid of his life, worst slump of his life. There's definitely a feeling it out period. You get through spring training, it's hard to take anything from it. And then the season starts and you're kind of like, all right, you're figuring out who you are this year. And if you miss that, where everybody else is kind of doing the same thing and seeing if their off-season adjustments are going to play out or not, can I really, hit the ball the other way more? And am I this guy? And then everybody kind of goes back to their old habits or their new shit works. Then you get like mid-May, everybody's locked in. And now our numbers are real, and I'm trying to have a season. We're trying to win games. And sometimes just missing that, it's almost like a grace period to start the year, the first 2 or 3 weeks. When you have to reset and try to have that grace period in the middle of the season, when it's like the game's so much faster by June and July.
And also we talked about how unlucky he was early because his hard hit rate, his BABIP, nothing coincided. Nothing everything was indicating that he was one of the worst, had some of the worst luck in the majors there for a while. Well, some of that's turning around now, like the home run he gets that would have been caught a while back. It bounces off the guy and goes over. So big to get him back going like he is, because he was a huge part of their success last year. So to get him going again in the bottom half of the order, you got him down there. It gives you so much down there, especially as the lineup's turning back over to Acuna. Got a couple of comments that I wanted to address that we saw in here. One said, who was it asked? Are we going to see? Is it realistic to think we're going to see Fried and Wright? Well, Fried is nothing has changed with Fried. I don't know why. I mean, it's almost like people don't see him. he's out for exactly how long we said he was going to be out. I mean, nobody was saying he was going to be back. He's on a 60-day IL. And just because he's not pitching in rehab games yet doesn't mean anything. I mean, this is the time where he needs to start a rehab assignment to get back sometime right after the All-Star break. That hasn't changed. There has been no setbacks with Max, right? He's not throwing yet. So we don't know how long he's going to be, but we said all along he was going to be out longer. It's a shoulder. It's a recurring thing, so they're going to be extra careful with him. And, I mean, I don't realistically expect to see him before August, mid-August, or even September. If they get right for the stretch drive in a postseason, they'll be thrilled. That's what they're looking for from him. They hope to have. That's why they're going to be careful. They can't have a third setback in 1 year with that shoulder. So they're not going to bring him back early and rush it at all. But he's not begun. Last I checked, the last week, he hadn't even begun throwing yet. So, but Fried, he's doing long toss. He was doing all that. I think he's off the mound now, I think. So we'll see. We'll find out yet today about the mound. But as far as I know, there's been no setbacks. As of last week, there had not been, and they're still aiming at sometime around the All-Star break, maybe right after the break. So they're definitely looking to have him for the second half.
Yeah, it's so nice the team's been able to do this without them, because it'd be really
Pretty
tempting.
amazing.
It's really tempting when you have guys this good to try to rush them back, and a lot of teams would.
Pretty amazing that they've been able to do this, especially the starters ERA, considering how they're piecing together those last couple of spots in there with the young kids, man.
Yeah.
That's somebody said how much concern about Strider. There's some concern. I'd be more concerned if he was showing signs of injury. And by that, I mean, yes, the velocity's down, the command's off, but it's not showing any indication out there of like shaking his arm off or of wincing or of coming out early. And if you're Spencer Strider, rather than continue to pitch at like a 6 ERA like he has in his last 6 starts, I think you're going to point out that, I'm having some problems with that, or you're going to skip a start. You're not just going to keep running out there. He's a smart guy
He's too smart.
through Tommy John, who's been through Tommy John. He's not going to go out there and pitch injured and not say anything about it. There's nothing to be gained by that. And he's got his long-term contract already. So, and he's not trying, it's not like he's trying to get an extension. Nothing to prove. So that's why, knowing the kid, that's why I'm not worried that there's something there injury-wise. He's just struggling with his mechanics big time. And like you talked about last week, he's getting hit with the velo down a mile an hour or two. He's missing. He's not, he can't miss at 96 like he could at 99. Right. And he's missing over the plate, and it's getting hit hard. And he's missing with his slider too, and some people are spitting on that slider. He's throwing some wild pitches. He's bouncing some. So then he's getting behind and he's leaving pitches over the middle. So he's got to get it figured out. But he said he's had problems with mechanics basically all year, even when it wasn't showing up, because he was throwing 99. So he was getting away with some stuff. But I wouldn't say there's there's any real concern, because I think it's something that he can. But the velocity dip, you wonder what's going on there. But I think his mechanics when he's on are so perfect that he's smooth. He worked on them so hard for 3 years after Tommy John that he had it down last year, and it's like delivering a laser when he's throwing 99, 100 miles an hour. That maybe when he's a little off, that's what we're seeing. He's down to 95, 96, throwing some at 94. But like he topped out yesterday at 95, 8, and it was like in the first inning.
It's really hard to learn how to pitch when you have an invisible ball. And what last year was a career high in innings for him, I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And a longer season. A lot of times after that first really stretched out season, you experience kind of a dead arm the next year. So it might not be anything mechanical, whatever, but you have to go through these periods to learn which days you can get away with 96 down the middle and which days you have 99 down the middle. And I think that's kind of what he's going through, is more than anything, just maybe a little fatigue from the season before, not having that same fastball. But, I hate it when I'm watching the games and he'll finally give up a homer or something like that, and the location gets pointed out.
Right.
And I'm like, if you watched him pitch last year, he was throwing 99 mile an hour dick balls all season.
Right.
He had an invisible fastball.
Yeah.
And so I don't think do I have concern about him? No, this is part of the learning how to be a major leaguer journey. You know, you gotta learn how to pitch when you don't have your best stuff, and you can't learn how to pitch when you make a mistake and it's a strikeout every time.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of learning opportunity when you're throwing 99 and nobody can touch it. You just have to get it in the box. You just have to get it in the zone. And they're spitting on some more sliders because they don't have to cheat as much. And that's what I've seen guys be able to catch up to his fastball when it's in a hittable place versus last year, the year before, even early this year. I've watched him, and I've watched him throw a fastball right down the middle in a 2-0 count, and the hitter swings 3 inches under it because they just can't get to it. And if that's how you've trained yourself to pitch, you know, congrats on your perfect mechanics and your 99-mile-an-hour fastball. But now you get to the point where I'm throwing 96 and it's hittable. Now it's just it's a matter of him recognizing it. Okay, and I see it a lot of times because I'll see how many strikeouts he gets, and you'll watch, and it's like, oh, that was a strikeout early in the season or last year and they're fouling balls off or putting good swings on him. They're not swings and misses. If he can recognize that early and be like, all right, I don't have that dynamite fastball today.
Yeah,
I got to get more to the corners. And I think that's an adjustment he needs to make, is just recognizing the days where you're just not going to get a free pass on a fastball down the middle like you did when you had 99. And if he comes out and he has the 99, then I'm just filling up the zone because nobody's hitting it when he's on. When he's locked in, he can throw it wherever he wants. It just has to mix in sliders to keep him a little off balance. It's a really easy game when you have that stuff, but the game's getting a little harder without the primo fastball, and he'll make the adjustment. You know, that as thoughtful as the guy is, he's going to figure this out pretty quick.
His four-seamer this year, average velo 97.0. Last year, average velo 98.2.
Yeah.
Remember, at this time last year, he had just moved into the rotation. He was in the bullpen in May, June, or April, May. So he moves into rotation at the beginning of June. And I think there's something to be said for the maximum innings that he pitched last year, by far the most in his career. I mean, and this is a guy that, you know, was hurt a couple of years in college with the Tommy John. So he's never really piled up innings anywhere. And last year, he's on that record strikeout pace. So it's like he's not only piling up innings, but he's blowing so many hitters away. He's not pitching to contact. He's just blowing guys away. So he threw so many pitches at 99, 98 or above last year, just like by far the most.
Yeah.
You know, so we'll see. I think he's in that feeling out period where he's figuring out, you know, how to pitch with his stuff, what he needs to do, that kind of thing. The slider, by the way, is at average velo is at 85.4 this year. Last year was 86.3. Changeup. I thought he would throw the changeup a little bit more, start mixing it in, especially when the other stuff is off a little bit. But he hasn't so far. He's thrown 6 changeups to right-handed batters and 85 to left-handers. Last year, he threw 9 to right-handed batters and 100 to left-handed batters. So, I mean, I guess he's throwing a little bit more, but not much at all.
Well, what's going to convince you to work on a third pitch?
Yeah.
Setting strikeout records?
Right.
Probably not.
Right.
You know, I mean, this is just how it goes, is you make adjustments when they're needed. You don't just start making adjustments for fun. You know, he's not going to get beat last year, early this year when he's on a tear on his third best pitch.
What stands out, because the spin rate on the fastball is the same, a little bit higher, actually. What stands out is the opponent's slugging percentage. Last year, opponents hit 201 and they slugged only 295 against his fastball, which is ridiculous. This year, they're hitting 228, but they're slugging 455 against the fastball. They're hitting some home runs on it.
Well, that's that backspin. You know, I mean, that's unfortunate side of.
Yeah, he's generating the power.
You get those swing and misses, but when you have that much carry on your fastball, everybody's swinging under it. When you see them swing and miss, they're under it. They're not over the top of it. So you're not getting ground balls and cheap singles. When they connect and barrel it, it's going to be in the air on his fastball.
He gave up a career high 3 homers yesterday in the first 2 innings.
Yeah. Before
he recorded his 5th out. It was really weird to see. You know, you're just not used to that from this guy. To see guys taking him deep like that, especially a team like Detroit at that ballpark, big ballpark. Settled in and had some pretty decent, the next 4 innings. He gives up 1 more run, but it was a bad day for him, obviously, and he's had a string of them now. He gave up 7 hits, 5 runs over 5 innings. Was very upset with himself for not going deeper, especially in the first game of a doubleheader. It's a pride thing, stress the bullpen like that. And then Jesse gets hurt and blah, blah, blah. 2 walks, had a season low 6 strikeouts. That's something when you can have a season low 6 strikeouts.
Yeah.
But that was it for him. And like I said, it's a string of games now. This is the alarming part if there is one. He's allowed 31 hits, 25 runs, 23 of them earned, and 10 homers in 32 innings in his past 6 starts.
I mean, he's providing the power and the backspin. That's how he's going to get hurt is the long ball. But
yeah,
like I said, if you watch his games in the past, or if you add 2 miles an hour to any of these pitches the guys are hitting, their pop-ups or deep center field, it's not the same. But I always think about it because people never think 2 or 3 miles an hour makes that big of a difference. But even when Iglesias came back this year, and he had some good games throwing a changeup. His changeup was only 4 miles an hour slower than his fastball. The guys were way out front on it. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, his ERA has gone from, he's gone from being the clear front runner for the Cy Young early in the season, but he was the front runner. His ERA has gone from 1.60 to 4.12 in that 6-start span. Still has 48 strikeouts in that span in 32 innings, but he also has 15 walks, and it's the hits total, obviously, that jumps out. 31 and 32 innings over that span with 10 homers. So,
well, if this winds up being the stuff he has, if this winds up being who he is, he can absolutely pitch with the stuff he's got right now. Yeah. You just have to know that this is who I am and this is what I got. And like I said, you can't learn how to get through this in any other way but going through it.
Right.
You can't just sit there when you're blowing fastballs by everybody and be like, shit, I wasn't locating great today. Well, I struck out 13.
Yeah, right.
Am I really going to change anything? Give up the 3 homers. That's when you start saying, okay, the fastball up has to be a little higher. The fastball down and away has to actually be on a corner. It can't just be middle third.
Yeah, I think if this is his stuff, and I don't think it's going to be his stuff, but if his stuff is closer to this than say, throwing 99 a whole game, then I think the third pitch, the changeup, if that's what it's going to be, he's got to hone it, start throwing it more. He can't get by with 2 pitches if you're throwing 95, 96.
His fastball was an out pitch. If you think about a guy that has a wipeout, splitter or curveball or something like that, that's harder on your arm than the fastball. So you can't have a starting pitcher go and throw their out pitch for 85 pitches a game. But he can throw his out pitch, which was a fastball, swing and miss fastball for 7 innings and throw 80% fastballs. It's easy on your arm.
He said after the game, it wasn't very good. We won the game. That's what matters. So credit to everybody else. He said because he mentioned his last start, how bad, the mechanics that he struggled with most of the season. He said there's a few things. He goes, I actually made some progress today, but I need the results to show it. That's it. That's what really matters. I don't want to go out there and be a liability. I'm not really putting us in a position to win a game very often. Fortunately, we've been able to when I've pitched, but certainly not because of anything I've done. Credit to everybody else continuing to pick me up and play well. I got to figure out how to be better. Totally accountable, man. Just totally held himself accountable. No excuses, nothing. Didn't say, we won the game. He's like, we won the game, but it wasn't because of me.
And that's the key.
Accountable. Yeah.
That's the key. You see good players early in their career, and sometimes it would happen to me too, but sometimes you put up a 0. But I had this game against the Mets in maybe 2009 or something. I remember I felt like Delgado, Beltran, David Wright, and I threw 2 scoreless, but I was centimeters away from giving up 6.
Yeah.
And so the swings they were putting on it, you look at it and you're like, I must not have been hiding. What was wrong? And you kind of fix it before it blows up on you. But you're not just taking credit for a shitty outing that went well. And same thing with him when he does bad. He's a guy that's so thoughtful. I don't have a level of concern that he's not going to try to fix it, even if things go his way in the next start. He'll still reflect honestly. Okay, I had a good start, but I got away with a lot of bullshit. I still have work to do, and he's going to keep grinding. And the character he has, that's why I don't really have any concern for him, because he'll make this adjustment. He's too smart.
Yeah, he's gotten terrific run support, and then bullpen help too. So He's 7-2. For back in the day, people would look at but he's 7-2. Now it's
even
like,
if you have a 4.5.
Right. So anyway, I'm really curious to see his next couple of starts and how he gets things turned around. I think he will. He's so smart. He's so talented that I think he will. Look back on this and probably gain from it. Learning a little bit more how to pitch. Because I mean, we couldn't realistically. There's a reason why he was the fastest to 200 strikeouts in a year. He was the fastest to 100 strikeouts in a year. Beat DeGrom's record. Well, I mean, there's a reason nobody else has been able to do this kind of stuff because it ain't normal.
Yeah.
To be able to go out there and do that.
Yeah.
And he is still a human being. He's not a Superman.
Yeah.
He's not a 5'11" Superman that can just throw out and throw 99 to 100 year
forever.
after year, start after start, month after month, year after. You can't just do it forever. So
he'll figure it out.
It was fun to watch while it lasted, and hopefully there's more of it. But I'm not expecting it to be a every 5 days thing like it was for a while there.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point though. Is when you're doing things nobody else has ever done or setting records, there's a reason why it's a record, because it's really freaking hard to do and even harder to maintain. But if it is like a fatigue thing, it's sometimes you don't really realize it. You feel great, but the ball just doesn't come out the same. And that's why I'm talking about kind of reading the swings and looking up. I don't like to see pitchers peeking at the gun every pitch, but there's times where the guy puts a good swing on one, you look up and you're normally 99, you see 95, and you're like, okay, I definitely got away with that, and I need to recognize that and fix it. But overall, I just think that, career high in innings and all that, you're going to have a kind of not a dead arm, but you're going to have a period where you're just not able to do the same stuff when you take on a workload like that you haven't experienced before. Yeah,
you can't just keep pitching at a level that, I mean, the guy you beat last year, Randy Johnson, 6'10", side-arming freak, first ballot Hall of Famer. Who threw a perfect game at 40.
Yeah.
And then the guy you beat this year to 100 strikeouts was on like a Sandy Koufax-like tear before his body broke down. Now he's hurt all the time.
Yeah.
So those are the two people whose records you beat.
Yeah.
You're not beating like normal great pitchers. You're beating like
it's not Horacio Ramirez record you're topping.
You're beating unicorn records.
Yeah.
So you can't just keep doing that shit forever, man. You get lulled into, because you watch him do it time after time. You're thinking the guy goes out there with no hit stuff every time he pitches. He piles up 12 to 16 strikeouts. It's like that's not normal. But you start thinking, okay, he could get 300 strikeouts in 200 innings.
Yeah. It's just it's like you said, there's reasons why these things don't happen consistently for people. Yeah. And guys that do them, like Sandy Koufax, DeGrom,
break down.
They're putting a lot on it. And Randy Johnson happens to be 6'10" and throwing sidearm. Okay.
And it took him forever to get there too. Look at the games, the seasons he had early on when he was walking the yard.
Yeah. And I think he'll gain some of that oomph back on his fastball and put it all together. And if he doesn't, I trust him to make an adjustment, whether it's throwing more sliders, working on that changeup, whatever it is. I don't have concern about him because he's too driven. He's not just showing up with his best stuff and going out drinking after the games. He's locked in.
Right.
He's put some thought into this.
Yeah, that's the really encouraging part. If anybody can get out of this, it'll be him. And I'm like you. I really expect him to come out and get through this. That's probably the worst of it yesterday, and he's had a rough stretch, but he'll turn it around.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. We got a 4-game series against the Rockies that starts tonight. The Braves have got their, the other thing was by using Dylan Dodd yesterday, that was really smart on Alex Anthopoulos to bring him up on short notice, use him as the 27th man. That way you didn't have to use one of those options. You only get 5 within an option year now. You can only move a guy up back and forth 5 times now.
Doubleheader doesn't count.
No, because he was the 27th man, and they'd already done 3 of those options with him. 3.
Yeah,
and we're only
so they're going to get 6.
Right. So they give everybody else an extra day rest. As it was, they would have had to come up with, they would have had to use Dodd or somebody else on Sunday. Now it lines up. You can use your 4 guys lined up perfect for these 4 games against the Rockies.
Nice.
So, all right. 7:55 is real. We are out. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate it.